My name is Juan Francisco, and I'm a psychic medium and tarot card reader. I've always been curious about the supernatural, the paranormal, and psychic abilities, and I'm here to share my stories and interview folks who want to share their own stories with us. Let's get to it. Hey everybody, so this week, let's talk about spiritual bypassing. So just going to read you a very quick definition. It seems like, according to Psychology Today, a May 2024 article, that the term spiritual bypassing was coined by a John Wellwood, according to this article, prominent psychotherapist and author in the transpersonal psychology field, who passed away in May, actually. And it says here, quote, in his classic book, Toward a Psychology of Awakening, he defines spiritual bypassing as using spiritual ideas and practices to sidestep personal, emotional, unfinished business, to shore up a shaky sense of self, or to belittle basic needs, feelings, and developmental tasks. The goal of such practices, he claimed, was enlightenment. Enlightenment. Got to pronounce that T in the middle. So I want to talk about spiritual bypassing because it is a term that I'm seeing float around a lot right now, and I've seen a couple podcasts talk about it. I've heard mention of the phrase, and I've known for a big part of my life, big part of my adult life, I've known exactly what this is, but I didn't know there was a term for it. And I love that there's a term for it because there's a way to name it when we see it in ourselves. And I just want to say, first and foremost, everyone is on a spiritual journey. Even if you are not a spiritual person, if you don't believe in anything, from my end, I believe you are still a soul on a journey. Even if you're atheist, you don't believe in anything. But it's not for me to tell you that you are on a spiritual journey. You have to discover that for yourself or embark on it yourself. Or not really embark on it, but acknowledge it. We've already embarked on it. We embarked on this spiritual journey in these human bodies, and we were born into these human bodies. So it's not for me to judge anyone else's spiritual journey. But I do recognize sometimes glaring hints that someone is spiritual bypassing, because I've done it myself. I have shared on this podcast that there was a phase of my life when I was a born-again Christian. And the reason I became a born-again Christian is because I was really afraid to go to hell. Because I still am a gay person. I was in the closet. I was afraid of being openly gay. I was afraid that God hated me because I felt like I was gay. I liked other boys. I liked other guys. And the best way for me to save myself from being condemned to hell by God was to be religious and to pray and to go to church I was slightly compulsive with religion, and I was slightly fanatic too. And I remember just how much stress I put myself through. But I did all of that. I went to church, I prayed, I did all the things because I was afraid of being damned to hell. And in a way, I think I was spiritually bypassing. I was internalizing homophobia, I was internalizing religious hate, but I think it was a form of spiritual bypassing because I didn't do these spiritual practices or rituals for the right reasons. And I do believe there are people out there who do go to Catholic Mass, who do pray to God every day, the Christian God, for the right reasons, because they have a soulful connection with that belief. They have a love for that higher power. They have a love for the rituals. But I wasn't doing it for those reasons. Even though I really didn't love doing those things, I did them because I was afraid. And I think that's the first major sign that we're doing something for the wrong reason, is because we're afraid of something. We're doing it to avoid something else that we're afraid of, when it comes to spiritual practices, at least. And let me tell you, in this day and age of social media, I find that it's easy. Well, number one, it's easy to meet a lot of different people in the psychic world. And I have met some psychics who, there's two different camps of people I see. well, I shouldn't say it that way. The group of people I'm going to talk about when it comes to spiritual bypassing, within that group, there are two different things I've seen and I've noticed in some people I've met so far. One camp being people who do this psychic work, who want to do mediumship, who want to read cards because it's a distraction for them. And in the meanwhile, they are these not very nice people, or they're people that are very cynical, or they're people that are very like just touchy, very touchy. They just, what I mean by touchy is it's easy to offend them, and they don't take responsibility for their own triggers. Then there's this other camp of people who maybe exhibit some of those behaviors and sometimes do those things that I just shared about the first camp of people. But the second camp of people, they do all this psychic work and they beat themselves up over the head about, I'm a psychic medium and oh, I feel all this energy. Oh, it's so much. And I'm not dismissing anyone who says that psychic mediumship work takes a lot of energy out of them. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is there are people who complain about this work because it takes a lot out of them. But then I think, well, why are you doing it? And then they may say they love doing it, but I'm like, well, it seems like you're always complaining about this work. Like it takes a lot out of you, like as if like people's problems it's always this message I hear from some people that I'm dealing with people's problems and the energy of those problems is staying with me. And I'm like, why would you put yourself through that? And there was one person I used to know who would just complain about their clients, and it's just, and I have sympathy for people because sometimes this takes a lot out of you, and there are people who are very highly empathetic. But then if you are putting yourself through those scenarios and you keep seeing the same result where you're just like completely depleted, maybe there's something you got to do about the energy you're absorbing. And to me, it's a very victimhood mentality to like to do this work and then to just complain about your clients and the energy your clients bring to the readings. For me, it doesn't make any sense why someone would put themselves through that. It's a very sacrificial way of being a psychic medium or an intuitive worker, and I don't understand it. And maybe my mind will change in 5 years, because maybe someone is listening to this thinking, oh, Juan thinks all this work is just rosebuds and petals and unicorns. And I don't, because I have seen people cry in readings. I have cried in readings when messages have come through that are so impactful or so sad. And I know this is serious work. And I don't believe in toxic positivity. I don't think that everything's unicorns and light and love. Life is hard. But I'm not going to put myself through something only to complain about my client or to complain about the energy I'm absorbing constantly. Doesn't make any sense to do that to myself. I deserve better than that. And so does everyone else in this line of work. And the reason I mentioned that second camp of people is because I can't help but think that if someone who is in this work complains often about, oh, this energy I'm absorbing, they're constantly complaining about how much of a burden this is on them, then it makes me wonder, what are you doing this for? Are you actually doing it to help people? And I'm not saying they're not. I bet most of these people are. But if all you're doing is complaining about the work, what really is your intention in doing the work? And what is it about yourself, your boundaries, your own well-being that you're avoiding by doing this work? There seems to be this pattern, again, among some folks in this group of people, that it's like when they say they're a psychic medium, it's like, and they describe what their work is like or how they function within this work, it sounds so, oh, woe is me. Oh, yeah, I feel it all. Oh, it's like, So do you not like it? If you don't like it, don't do it. Oh, but I can't control it. They come to me all the time. Well, in that case, maybe you got to talk to a mentor or talk to a shaman, because I don't believe that we're put on this planet. Like, now, look, I don't see them everywhere. I don't hear them everywhere. Spirit doesn't just come to me everywhere. But let's say someone does have that experience. I don't believe we're put on this planet to feel tortured by spirit. I think there is a way to learn how to work with spirit, because maybe we're raised as kids that you're not supposed to be seeing imaginary things. Those things are fake. And then you're battling in your head, like, is this real? Is this fake? And why are these things coming at me? And it's scary. There's so much to unpack there, but I really don't believe God creates mediums just to be tortured by spirits. I personally don't believe it. Again, my mind could change. I may be upsetting some people listening to this episode who do feel things all the time, but then it makes me wonder, like, why would you put yourself through that if it's so torturous? And I just can't help but feel, again, it's just feelings, my opinion. I just can't help but feel that there's something about yourself and what you think that you deserve out of life, including boundaries. Something about those things that you're avoiding. So spiritual bypassing, I think, especially in the age of social media, it's so easy to edit content, edit videos, edit photos, and put these images and visuals up like we are living our mountaintop best lives. But then behind the smartphone camera, behind the smartphone touchscreen, where we really dislike ourselves, or we flip people off in traffic. I'm not saying I'm not that kind of person. I've done my share of traffic shouting in my past when I used to drive in Miami. I've been there. I also was not on a spiritual journey then like I am now. But I'm not saying tomorrow if a car almost runs into me at a stop sign, I'm going to have some choice words. So I'm not saying that it's a bad thing to throw a curse word out there because someone upsets you. I mean, we're only human. It's not the best thing to do. It's not maybe the right thing to do, but we're human. We make mistakes, okay? But there's a difference between something slipping out because someone upsets you, that versus being a cynical person, always distrusting people, expecting people to know what you're thinking so they can please you, expecting people to be perfect. And I've met some psychics, I met some intuitive workers who are just not very cognizant of the way they speak and how their words impact people. And I can't help but think that if you are being this rude to people on Instagram Live or to people in your Instagram videos, what does that say about you? And I remember I did an episode a long time ago. I forgot when it was, maybe 1 or 2 years ago. I talked about bad psychics, quote unquote, bad psychics. And I talked in that episode about, I believe there are some very talented psychics who go about it the wrong way. There are people who have these abilities and develop them, but then they use these marketing tactics to lure people in, to use fear to get people to buy their reading slots, their readings, their appointments. So just because someone is psychic doesn't mean we're perfect. I've been doing readings since 2021, and girl, let me tell you, I just in the last 5 or 6 months, less, have come to a place of, wow, I think I'm the happiest I've ever been in my life. And I've talked about this sometime in the past 15 episodes. I finally have come to a place in my life where I'm like, I'm really content. Am I 100% happy? No. And it's unrealistic to expect to be so. But am I content? Are there things that are not going the way I want them to? Yes. But do I feel safe? Do I feel all right within myself? Do I feel like I have what I need to thrive? Yes, I'm content. And that took me a while to get to that point. And so I'm not here to judge where people are in their lives. I'm talking about the intention. That's the most important thing. If a psychic is going to do this work because it saves them from themselves, or it gets them out of themselves, or it separates them from their problems, I don't know if that's the right intention. And I have my mentor, Daisy, at Earth Angel Crystal to thank, because she's the one that introduced to me the idea that in order for me to be the best medium that I can be, I need to do some inner child healing work. And I was like, what do you mean? What do I have to do with my readings? I'm just the one saying the stuff the Spirit wants to say. And that's how I viewed it. I viewed it as Spirit is using me as a channel, and I don't really matter. And I'm not saying that I'm the most important thing in a reading, but if you're using a pretty badly shaped instrument to play some music, the notes are not going to come out the same. And the messages I was bringing through from 2021 to 2023, before I had this mentorship of Daisy, there was some really powerful stuff. And I'm proud of all the readings I've done up until now. But now that I have some more self-awareness and some more self-love, I have a confidence doing my readings that I haven't had before. And I've always been empathetic. I have to say that I'm a very empathetic person, and I've always tried to choose my words in a reading carefully so as not to re-trigger somebody or not to upset somebody, because I could choose the wrong words. Even though the right message is coming through, I could choose the wrong words. I've been always very mindful of that. But since I've started working on myself, it never ends. Since I've started working on myself and my sense of happiness within myself, feeling confident within myself, I'm even more careful and even more empathetic. And I also don't put up with people's stuff as much as I used to, because I'm more confident. I respect myself as much as I try to respect other people. And I think that there was some time in the beginning of my mediumistic development journey that I was seeing this work as an escape for myself. And that's why I loved it. I first got into it because, number one, I was helping people to heal. I was doing something that was, number two, very cool. I thought it was so cool. And number three, it was healing for me. But I didn't realize that I was totally separating myself from the work. And I think everything happens for a reason. When I discovered this ability in 2021 and worked at it and developed it, I did feel like it was helping to heal me. And I'm not discounting that, even though I was not considering my role as a human in the work. But once I started looking at my inner child and doing that healing work, that part of the healing work, the overall healing progress just went zoom, exponentially increased. And I want to keep working at it because I've noticed what a difference that has made for me as not only a human being, but also as a psychic medium. My readings have gotten deeper. I've gotten more. It's less about I've said this before on a podcast, but it's less about did your grandma have a blue button? Oh my gosh, she had a blue button. How did you know that? Those things still happen. But that's not the most important thing that happens in a reading. That's the supporting role kind of stuff. The main star, I hate to say it that way, but the main parts of the reading are the parts where something very meaningful comes through. And it's less about, did your mom have a blue car? Oh my God, you have a blue car. That's exactly what it sounds like. It's less about that. And that's important, very important. I need that. Sorry, I just bumped my microphone. I need that evidential stuff from souls, from spirit, to support the message that's going to come through. But the most important thing is the message. So my ego I'm less invested in my ego, and my ego is interested in, tell them, they have a blue car and they're going to be surprised that, oh my God, how did they know how did you know that they had a blue car? The ego gets a stroke from that. The ego gets something out of that. And it's not to say that isn't important. Again, evidential is very important. But when I made that everything in a reading, it was coming from a place of ego. And now my goal is to heal through messages and have the evidence support the messages. Have the evidence support the healing goal. So spiritual bypassing. It's very easy when we discover something that is beautiful, that makes us feel like there's something bigger than ourselves, like there's a bigger purpose to life, or that there is a purpose to life. It's very easy to make that our God. And if it is God, it's very easy to hold ourselves to such a high standard with God. And I just keep thinking back to when I was a born again Christian. I look back and it was such a painful way to live. And sometimes I struggle because I've had some of my most deep religious and spiritual experiences in that time of my life. So then it's like, oh, then should I go back to that? But then I realize, but I'm so happy right now. And I don't think those were fake experiences. I don't think they were hoaxes. I think they were very much real. And it's what I needed at that time. That's what God could give me at that time based on my understanding. My understanding being what I believed in at the time. And so with that, I say, wherever you are in your spiritual journey, you have to honor it. You have to respect it. And just check with yourself. Am I doing this because I'm afraid of something? Am I casting this spell because I'm afraid that my ex doesn't still love me? Am I doing this ritual every day because I'm afraid that someone put a curse on me? Am I saying the same 20-word prayer every day because I just don't want God to be mad at me? I think God and the universe are bigger than that. I think coming to the realization that we have the power within ourselves to change our lives where we can change it, because we can't control everything. We can only control ourselves and the actions that we take. But we have the power to change how we view things in our life. That we have the power to set boundaries and tell people, no, that's not okay with me. That we have the power to tell somebody, hey, I love you and really appreciate you, and I don't tell you that enough. When we bring back that power to ourselves, we live in an empowered mindset. And that's not coming from a place of fear. That's coming from a place of self-recognition, knowing who we are, that we are part of God, that we are part of everything that is. Why would we want to bypass that? But when we feel very small within ourselves and we feel like we're not good enough, I've had my share of compulsions in my life, and I've shared this before as well, whether it was sex to seek validation from people, or it was food, emotional eating, ways to avoid feeling like I wasn't good enough, instead of actually addressing that feeling of not being good enough with asking myself, well, why don't you feel good enough? Who told you weren't good enough? What made you feel not good enough? And what if they were wrong? Instead, I ate too much food. Or instead, I had sex with someone to feel good about myself. And spiritual bypassing can work similarly. I'm curious to hear your thoughts. I feel like with every episode, I am getting more and more bold with my opinions. The last episode I did on Law of Attraction, I was nervous to put it out there, but no one really responded to it. I mean, one person, sorry, you know who you are, did DM me to say they really enjoyed the episode, and that was wonderful. But see, when I said no one really responded to it, I was only thinking of the negative comments out there. Why can't I uplift the positive comments I get? Well, see, that's my mindset. Got to change that. But spiritual bypassing it's a real thing, and I say it from firsthand experience. It is a real thing. And I think it's important to have grace with people that whom we think are spiritually bypassing. But it's also okay to tell ourselves, you know what, this person is in this phase of their life and I'm not here for it. I love them, but I'm not here for it. And I can be kind to them, but I don't have to be around them, or I don't have to interact with them. I think at this point I can tell when somebody does the psychic stuff for show. I can tell when somebody just wants a lot of attention on themselves and isn't actually focused on the healing part of the work. Now, look, I'm here with a podcast on camera for people on YouTube. I'm here with my audio recording myself. Very easy to say, Juan, but you are putting yourself on a platform and you're showing your face everywhere, and you take selfies and you're exercising in the park. So aren't you making it about yourself? Well, I'm human and I am a vessel. I am the vessel that holds Juan. And there's so much nuance and so much moderation needed here. There's a difference between putting up a selfie of myself because I think I look cute and doing a reading and saying, like showing someone a reading I did and saying, aren't I great? Like, wasn't that really good? Wasn't that really good? Like, I think I hit the nail on the head. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I know. I thought it was really good too. Like, just this, you gotta, I feel so ridiculous. That was such a silly part of my monologue that I just did. But like I said many, many times before, if you're on Instagram and you're saying that you don't care about self-promotion, or you don't want to be self-centered, being on Instagram doesn't make you self-centered. Being on Instagram is self-promotion, and self-promotion is important. And if I want to celebrate myself at the beach, like I'm at the beach and look how cute I look, what's wrong with that? Knowing our intention is the most important thing. The intention behind doing our work is so important. Are we doing it to get attention on ourselves? Is it just for that? Are we doing it to forget about our life's problems? Are we doing it because we want to hear praise from people? Oh my God, you were so good. Oh my gosh, you were amazing. Oh my gosh, how did you know that? Are we doing it just to hear those things? To each their own. But eventually the intention shows through. And that's where I think the topic of spiritual bypassing has to be considered. What are you doing it for? What are you avoiding? If you're wanting attention towards yourself, are you avoiding giving yourself that attention? That's self-love. Giving yourself praise. Knowing that you don't need other people's praise to feel successful. I think I'll end it here because I can continue going down a word vomit rabbit hole. Well, I may regret some things I've said in this episode, but I am somebody who will be very honest and say that I have a lot of learning to do. I think I still do, because I don't talk from a moral high ground. I'm not some perfect person who's figured out being a healed, 100% attuned psychic medium. I don't know what that even looks like. I don't know what it feels like. I just like to ask all the questions. I like to wonder, and I like to ask myself questions so that I can learn, where am I full of it? And what do I need to do about that? Because, listen, I think most of our lives, no, for a large chunk of our lives, we are sometimes full of it because we have egos, and that's just human. So let's question it. Let's challenge ourselves. Well, thank you for listening. And if you have thoughts on spiritual bypassing or have stories you want to share that you feel comfortable sharing, I would love to hear them. Just email me or DM me on Instagram. And I'll see you on the next episode. Bye. If you have a question or topic you want me to cover on Third Eyesight, head to my website, juanfranciscospirit.com/contact, and send a message my way. If you really enjoyed this episode, leave a review wherever you listen. I'd really appreciate it.